So I'm going to go through my takeaways, and some of this, I don't know if I might be repeating myself a little bit, but the key takeaways are: find a guide, sitter, therapist person like mine that you trust, and use your intuition. And if you can, do one-on-one journeys, right? Do a one-on-one journey, um, and I think that for me, that's where I got the most out of it. I have not done a group journey, like I mentioned. Maybe that will work. I don't know. And I know it's going to be more affordable, I believe. But the one-on-one journey, I highly recommend. And if you can find somebody that does, that will do an intake with you, try to get you to hone in on what to focus on, and then also, if they do some therapeutic stuff like massage, Reiki, and sound healing, like live sound healing with crystal bowls and other instruments as well as music. Um, it was really nice to feel, and in a nice setting, because you just open up and you continue to open up during the session with these tools and the modalities that she brought in. um, and then the next thing I want to talk about is free will, that we have to want to heal. We have to, each person has to want to heal. Essentially, we heal ourselves. We need other people to facilitate. You break your leg, the doctor fixes it, but your body heals itself. You don't consciously go, I am going to heal or not going to heal. But like, if I don't want to heal my broken leg, I can continue to walk on it, and it won't maybe heal, and maybe, you know what I mean? But we have to internally want to heal. We have to internally want to open up. And, love is invited in. And I think love is healing. And that's the whole thing, like with free will, is that if we don't want to let love in, we don't have to. If we want to let love in, we can. And sometimes it takes work to soften up enough to let it in, because it can be, to be vulnerable is when it can come in, right? And so it's this whole dance that we do of trying to soften up and be vulnerable, but not get hurt again or get hurt at all, but let love in. This is the work that we're doing. And also be strong, knowing who we are, and being able to be strong without being angry and hateful. You know what I mean? Like, no, I don't want to do this. I feel like sometimes I need to get angry to say no. But I'm trying to get to a point where I can say no, but it's not out of anger. It's out of just, it's not aligned with me. It's hard to do, isn't it? So it's work. And all of this is self responsibility, like taking responsibility for ourselves and our actions, and not blaming other people, because I can get so triggered by other people's actions that I could blame them for it, but it's me that's reacting to it. So, trying to get this all under control, understanding self responsibility, taking that responsibility, understanding free will, and exercising my free will, understanding how love and vulnerability go together, but being strong in the process. This is all part of it. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go on to the next topic. The next topic is the preparation. I mentioned this earlier, but the mindset going into it, preparing, is critical. The setting, feeling comfortable, because you're going to be opening up under psilocybin and MDMA, and then the matrix, like what you go back to. So being mindful of all these things is critical. And as I mentioned, giving yourself time before you go back into the matrix, 3 days, 7 days, give yourself some time to reflect. I don't know if I added this in my list here, but journaling, make sure, uh, I would say make sure to journal, because thinking it is one thing, writing it down is another, and saying it out loud is another. It's a form of expression. And I think it starts to become more concrete, more real, when we not just think it, but write it down and then say it too. But in terms of what's coming through, you can write it down. And so I wrote it down, and now I'm saying it in this podcast. So thank you for listening if you've gotten this far again. So, yeah. So journaling, critical. expressing yourself. That's another thing, is just expression. Expression is healing, right? And that can be very vulnerable, expressing yourself authentically, because you're opening yourself up to what you believe, right? And nowadays, everybody gets triggered on one thing or another. I'm afraid to say certain things in front of certain people because I know they're going to get upset when I'm not saying it to upset them, but just want to express myself. So another dance here, but there's a saying, if I can remember off the top of my head, in the Gospel of Thomas, which is just a list of Jesus's sayings. And one of those, and that didn't make it into, of course, the New Testament. It was part of the Gnostic Gospels. But anyway, there's a saying that says something like, Jesus said something like, if you let out what is within you, it will save you. If you do not let out what is within you, it will destroy you. And to me, that there's something about expression there, like being able to express ourselves authentically in a loving way. Um, that 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 expression, that expression helps to save us. It helps to like make us sane, and it's energy, and energy's flowing out. And then we want this positive energy to flow and express ourselves. That could be verbally, or it could be in writing, or maybe movement or something like that. But there's this energy that flows through. And if we don't let it flow through and it gets stuck, anger, resentment, these things that loop, it will kill you. It'll start to eat at you. So that saying made so much sense when I started thinking about it in terms of expression. So expression is really important. Just think about that. Maybe I'm still meditating on it, but to me that makes a lot of sense. And then self-love or self-care is healing and empowering, right? The forgiveness is healing, and then forgiving yourself, or taking care of yourself, that's healing. Loving yourself is healing. Love is healing. And forgiveness is, in a way, a form of love to yourself, because you're not looping on anger or whatever it is with the other person or circumstance or whatever that you were looping on. And you also give them their freedom to be who they are, even if it's not pretty. They get to be who they are, and you let them play out their patterns. And if they want to heal, they get to choose to heal, because they have free will also. So, but you don't have to put up with their behavior, right? You don't have to. You let them. Behavior has consequences. So, and sometimes we get, I don't want to get too much into the forgiveness part and other people's actions upon us. I believe I touched on that in the journey number 1. But yeah, I mean, there are sometimes you can't get out of it, and eventually we'll get out of it, a certain circumstance. But you don't have to be emotionally tied to it. I know that's hard to do, but all these things are healing when you can start to take control of our emotions and things like that. And that's where like things like meditation and breath work, and probably therapy, and psychotherapy and things like that, all of this comes in handy, where we're trying to remove ourselves from being like magnetized, seems like, towards certain things that are not healthy for us, and trying to break that away so we can again take control of ourselves. If I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but I'll leave it at that for now. Then the next thing is, an organized integration program was critical, and the work just begins right afterwards. It begins right after you do your plant medicine, and there's nothing better to me than going to somebody or a group workshop. It could be one-on-one or a group workshop where you're doing integration work, or it's like working on yourself, and think like kind of some of the elements I mentioned. It might not include that, but something where somebody has like they know that you've gone through something and you need to process it over a period of time. Do it. Say do it is super helpful. I noted that a full integration can take up to a year, or maybe around a year. I think for me, I feel like I just came back down to earth, so to speak, where I feel like I can take what I've learned and be in the real world. And that, not that I couldn't be in the real world, but I was still processing. But after doing all the work, it seems like after a year, I feel a lot more like I'm integrated, like I can, because I think that's the whole point, is that we heal ourselves, we learn maybe new things about ourselves and how to be stronger but yet vulnerable, this whole balance, and then we can be that in the world. And then that helps heal other people, and not hiding away in my house going, oh, I had a spiritual awakening, I'm blissed out and I'm not going outside ever again. I think it's all about plugging back in and spreading the vibration, the love vibration. So, but it can take time. Give yourself time. It's a journey. Um, and the last thing I wrote down was, we are. I just want to reiterate that we're a connected species. We're an organism. And we're healthy when we're connected and working together and creating together. And we feel good when we make connections. And that's what we are. And isolation and separation and anger and resentment and war and violence and sickness is not what we are. And if anybody is propagating that, then they're going against our health and our human nature. Even if they don't realize they're doing it and they think they're doing a service, it's I'd say back out of daily feeds of getting whipped up in this stuff, and maybe go on a diet of, like, I'm completely tuning out of news and things like that, and I'm just going to focus on myself, like maybe doing stuff for yourself, going to your yoga, doing values journaling, doing visioning, like what's the ideal life that you want, maybe doing some breath work, working on yourself, trying to heal yourself and strengthen yourself so you get centered in who you are before you go back out in the world, so you don't get whipped up in this anger and hating your neighbor for voting for the person you're not going to vote for, or maybe you're not voting at all and you're not getting angry at anybody. Perhaps just a an example. But yeah, that's not what we are as a human organism, and I think we are moving in the direction of healing, and that it's happening rapidly. That's I've heard this after I had that insider download. I've heard that over and over and over again from other people, that they're getting the same message. And I suppose anything can happen. Things can, we because we have free will, things can change. Um, things can change, like, but I think the momentum is going in that direction, and it's building, like, exponentially. I think it's really building exponentially, where it's practically inevitable. But again, anything can happen. And it does seem crazy right now that we're on the brink of, World War III, nuclear war, who knows, and the US elections coming up, and that seems crazy. So it's a crazy time we're living in. But I think when we start to move from one system to the old system's going to rattle and scream and cry before it goes away. And that's just it's what we have to go through before we get to a better place. It's just what's going to happen. It's not going to go easy. The old system is not going to go easy. But I do think it's built on a house of cards, and at some point it just not have the power that it had, and that we're going to be able to move into another system. And I hope that is somehow just happens. Maybe we don't even notice it, but it's starting to happen. Maybe it happens and it's dramatic and we see it. I don't know, but that is what I downloaded. So